Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the iWorkinSport live interview. This is the show where we talk to accomplished sport business professionals who come here to share their knowledge, experience, tips, and advice in order to help you succeed in your career. My name is João Frigerio. I'm the founder of iWorkinSport, and I want to thank you for being here with us. I don't know if this is the first time that you're joining our live interviews or if you're coming back. So if this is your first time, let me know in the comments. And if you're coming back, say hi again. You know how this is. It will be very interactive. I'll be expecting your questions and you'll be part of the conversation, right? So let me know in the comments. Also, I normally ask for you to post where you're watching from. We normally have a very international crowd, so it's always good to see where you are. And if you're actually watching the replay, you're not watching this live with us, also leave that in the comments. We'll check all of them. So if you don't know iWorkinSport, we're a platform to help you boost your career in sport. If you want to work in sport or if you're already working in sport, we're here to help you either way. Right, so we mainly organize events which connect you with recruiters, such as the one that we had a virtual job fair last week, or we also connect you with sports management programs, which also can be a very effective entry point to the industry, right? So we also produce a lot of valuable content. For instance, we just launched a report called the Most Attractive Employers in Sport. So for that, we surveyed over 1,000 people. You'll find very interesting trends in it. I mean, what candidates look for when they're choosing a job. There are interviews with recruiters in it, HR leaders from companies like FIFA, the IOC, FIBA, Bayern Munich, and others. If you're interested in that type of content, there is a link in the description below. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's free to download. Go there. To know more, you can also check us out on iWorkinSport.com, right? And on our social medias or social media channels. In addition to YouTube, where we are at the moment, we're also streaming on LinkedIn. We have a channel there too, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. In all of them, you find us as iWorkinSport, okay? Also on LinkedIn, we do have a community there that we call We Work in Sport. Since that's a community, that one we replace the I for the we. And so that's called We Work in Sport. You can find us there. Now let me introduce you my guest. Today, we're going to talk with Pedro Mestriner. He's the co-founder and CEO of Horizm, a digital asset platform for the global sports and entertainment industries. So Horizm provides rights holders with a solution for managing and selling their digital inventory. So if I try to explain that, Pedro will explain better than me, of course, but any digital content that these rights holders produce has a value, right? So an Instagram post by a team or an athlete, that can be monetized. So what they do is they help these rights holders to understand that, to evaluate that, and perhaps even to sell it. We're going to learn more about it. So they find out how that's actually worth, and that's why that solution is quite important, especially nowadays. We'll understand more about it from Pedro himself. Just so you know a little more about the company, it's a quite young one. It's a tech startup, less than 2 years old. And today they already manage over 100 million euros of digital inventory, if you will. He will explain what that means as well. They work with federations, athletes, leagues, teams like Real Madrid, Chelsea, Inter Milan are some of their clients. Right, so Also, I want to mention that Pedro is an athlete himself in rock climbing, or he's a rock climber. Lived as an athlete for a bit. He was just telling me some interesting stories that we're going to share with you. And he also tells us how, being an athlete, the experience that he has doing that may helped or not in his career. So let me invite Pedro to join us. He will be with us right after this. Hello, Pedro. How are you?
Hello, João. Obrigado. Thank you very much for having me here. All good. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We already have some people saying hi to you. Let me put some people here in the comments. We have Marina watching from Lisbon. Marcelo Ortiz, actually the guy who introduced us some years ago. So Marcelo is a good friend, being part of this.
It's awesome.
Diego is watching in Uruguay.
Hola, Diego. Un placer. ¿Qué tal, Diego?
We have someone here watching on LinkedIn from Guyana that I can't see the name, so I'll try to find on my phone later. But whoever is watching from Guyana, if you want to say your name, please. Also, Ruben.
Ruben is very nice.
In Belgium?
He just applied. Yeah, that's great.
He's what?
Hi, Ruben. He just applied for a job position in Horizm. So great, Ruben. We're going to look at that, believe me.
Good, Ruben. It's nice that you're here. Aldo is in Madrid. Let us say hi to Jesus as well in Rennes, France.
Yeah.
Yash in India. We have people all over the place, Pedro, from all over the world connecting with
Hello,
us.
Hassan. Salam.
Patrick Castor.
Oui.
Hello, here in Switzerland, I suppose.
Switzerland.
Regina. Olá, Regina. We missed you. Regina is watching from Brazil. And Kat O'Brien in New York City.
Great to see you.
Great to have you all here. Thank you for watching. This is going to be a nice conversation. We want you to participate as well, so prepare your questions. Just someone else is saying hi. Here is Manuel Jorge in Lisbon. So Pedro, before I actually start with questions about Horizm, and I try to briefly explain that in the introduction, but you'll do a much better job than me, of course. But tell us a little bit about your career, maybe a short summary of your career, what you studied. You started as a developer, right, or working in IT.
Correct.
Then moved to marketing, and now you have your own tech startup in sports. So tell us a little about your journey.
Yeah, well, that's great. Thank you once again. Everything started with computers. When I was 15 years old, actually, I was lucky enough to be hired as a trainee in a pharmaceutical company called Pfizer. Everyone knows now Pfizer, being the name now. And
many knew before.
Knew before, yes.
Did an ad for the blue one.
Exactly, yeah. So I was I stayed in Pfizer for literally 6 years, from a trainee going to marketing department, but mainly starting fixing computers. This was talking in the 90s. This was very, very long ago. And then I went to code. Actually, we're coding and doing systems to integrate mainframes. There was no social media at all on that stage. But after Pfizer, literally was one of my first experience. I was really young and working still with my uniform from school in São Paulo, in Brazil. Typical thing that happens. My passion for sport came in. I was playing volleyball, but not super high on size on that. And one of my coaches say, "Look, I think you will not have probably a future on volleyball here." And I was introduced to rock climbing while I was still working. So I was managing between a weekend warrior, as we say, and working until came the click. I was 21 years old. I studied computer science with actually artificial intelligence was my specialty, which by that time was not the big hit, because artificial intelligence was still trying to emulate the human brain into computers, which is very difficult to do until today. Now we have more data points with machine learning. That's why it became a hit now in the last 5 years. But that time was kind of boring. I had to say nobody were paying attention except the, the super experts. And I decided to quit everything and went to travel. As an athlete, I got a sponsor. That's why I started my life looking for and knocking doors, asking for money, literally. And I spent, it was not an easy task to find, but I was lucky enough to find a bank, which is Banco Real in Brazil that time, and a few other brands that helped me with, expeditions, so I could create a project, get some money and go travel to Alaska, to Patagonia, to Pakistan, to whatever. There was a mountain to climb. I had the perfect excuse to travel. That was the project, no? And everything started with this, and climbing actually became part of my life in the last 25 years. Not only as a sport, but a lifestyle. Is also the mindset of climbing, which is part of the DNA of Horizm that I'm going to explain later. I ended up in Europe.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, so at that time when you were climbing with being sponsored and getting some support to do that, did you stop entirely to work with computers?
Literally, yes.
Or you were kind of consulting as well? You're doing two things at the same time?
Yeah, I did a few gigs, typical to make more money, to continue traveling more, because I still were, had some system running in Pfizer, but basically I was 85, 90% only traveling, because climbing requires, that you travel distant place. It was not that easy like today that you buy a ticket, online and you go, and there's a lot of information on internet. We're talking about, 96, 97. The birth of internet. There was nothing there, basically. We still travel based on experience on people, and, you just go and see what happens. It's the analogical way, but create a lot of, grit, a lot of way of doing things. And climbing, especially in big walls, are not an easy sport. I mean, no sport that easy, but in general, it's very mental sport rather than only physical. And I think that was the basis for everything, that I built in the last 25 years as a person, but also as a professional.
Then you went back to IT after you spent those years?
The click came back, and I said I need to go back to civilization, and I ended up in Europe by casualty. It's normally South America, we look towards US. And because of friends, a lot of friends are Spanish, Catalans and Basque people, and family as well, background, I decided to come to Spain for a 3 months. And I said, this is the last trip I'm going to do. And, everything came in. I got a job offer from a Swiss company, actually, in Basel, from UBS, a techie company, working with pharma. That's why my background. And I decided to go back to the civilization and normal life, and stay there for a couple of years before the first .com popped, and, kind of shaking what I do with my life. So I got a loan and literally did a degree, a master's degree in ESADE, which is a good business school here in Spain. And after that, I joined the corporate world, for a few years. Hitachi is a Japanese company, which I'm very thankful for. Probably the best experience. But then Hitachi, I got back to sport again. I was responsible for the budget of marketing when we started sponsoring football clubs. In that case, we decided to sponsor FC Barcelona. And I say that is reconnection with the sport. This was 2008. When we were the first regional sponsor as a brand in a football club. So we are only sponsoring a few countries in Europe. We have a few IPs, and that's where I reconnected to, let's say, the professional sport, but on the good side with the, writing checks, basically.
But on that role, you were then working with marketing. Then you already made the transition.
I was in marketing. I was a typical. I was in product and marketing. Marketing owns the budget on advertising as well as sponsorship.
How was that transition? So if you were a programmer or you're doing tech for a long time of your life, how did you switch to then a marketing?
To product. Yeah, basically product management. The Japanese were looking someone who can help the product management team. My background was a project manager in the end, so techie project manager. But from coding to build TVs and hand cams is a very single and short step. So basically, I joined not only because of the the MBA, but because of the background on engineering, let's say, on logical things. The Japanese, as you know, they are very, structured on the way they build things. So we had kind of a same logical on this. No? I went to product development, which is this project manager and product role. After a few years, I went, as we joke, to the dark side, which is sales and marketing, basically.
Right. It's super necessary, though.
Exactly.
Pedro, I want to ask you now about Horizm. So
yeah.
I want you to explain what that is. Just before you do that, let me just say hi here to Don Jolly TV from Nigeria. Oh, that's actually Lawrence. Hi, Lawrence, in Nigeria. The person on LinkedIn is Amanda Ramos from French Guiana, moving soon to Paris, looking for a master's degree in sports. You're in the right place. Amanda,
That's
check
good.
out the content that we have at iWorkinSport. There are a few programs there that might be interesting for you. And there's here, hello from a good friend, Mario Medeiros. Fantastic businessman with a bright and fast-forward mind. I agree. Horizm is a reference.
Prazer, Mario, igualmente.
So tell us, Horizm, what is it exactly that you do?
Yeah, I think you did a perfect introduction, but I will repeat that. I'll try to do it better than what you did, but you did perfectly. You did, in a nutshell, and a very good one pitch. Horizm is solving the problems of any right holder, as you said, athletes, clubs, sport organizations, federations, to do, let's say, three things. First is to value their digital assets. Value based not on media exposure, but based on marketing campaigns. That's a different approach. Traditionally, the industry is always counting logos and tracking logos only. I did this as an athlete. So you climb a mountain, you have a picture, and then you make the exposure of this. So they give you 100, 500 of the exposure. That was the logo. So first we do is we value. The second we use AI, machine learning, to group all those content that are already being produced by the right holders, either the federation or athletes, using machine learning. And then the third step, we put this to the markets. So we help them basically to say, this is performing good or bad. This is the way to go to market with this content or that content, making sure that it can either upsell to the current sponsor, probably not the best time on the planet now to do upselling, or retain a sponsor, and mainly to open new doors to new sponsors, basically open new categories. So we are the pre-sales to the whole process of sponsorship. We track, we prepare the products they will be selling until we're able to track this in the end. So we are providing a real-time tracking of the value of all those assets that will be delivered by the right holders. So it's a completely sales solution. It's not only analytics solution.
And now I was thinking, because now, well, if we talk about digital exposure, it's pretty much everywhere, right?
Everywhere, yeah.
It could be from, Facebook and Instagram and others. But if we think about it, there are brands that are now skins at Fortnite games, right? Or anything else. So what is it exactly that you're sort of measuring at the moment? What is sort of the plan for the future? And maybe then give us an example. So you have a club, and what is the process?
Yeah. Now, basically, the first thing is very plug and play. So any federation, we plug in one of our IPs. Basically, we can able to say, hey, you have now, for example, any football club, 25,000 posts done in all your social media channels.
Is there a set number of platforms that you cover?
Okay. Yeah, we cover now the social media ones, the main ones, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok coming soon. We are integrating now with Sina Weibo, also looking to the other markets, and any other social media platform we can put in basically. And if the right holder have an account there, we can, of course, track this. And then we put the value precise of this inventory. Imagine, to make it simple, football clubs and organizations like a factory. They're producing constantly content, and what we do is take those content, put in a box, like in a warehouse. And some of these they're already using, some of them is completely empty. We put the price and the tag and say, hey, if a brand is looking for this precisely content, this is what you're gonna sell, or what the way you should be selling. So we're helping them to unlock, that's the word, new revenue streams, which is music to the ears of everyone, not only today, but in the last 1 or 2 years.
That's great. And you're saying that that kind of service serves a team as Real Madrid or Chelsea or Inter, some of your clients, but some of the biggest brands in sports nowadays are the athletes themselves.
Correct.
So they can be your client as well. Do you have how does pricing work? Is that a subscription that they do?
Correct. Yeah, the business model is pretty much a hybrid between subscription and percentage of revenue share that we might bring, if in this case, and there's no related to the volume. So if it's Cristiano Ronaldo comparing to a small football club, there's nothing to do with volume. It's the service we need. There's a few layers on subscription. Basically, it's a SaaS model as of today. And we have athletes as well, because in the end, athletes are a property, as you were mentioning. Some of them bigger than any sport organization that we have, that we know as well. And basically, the brands are looking at the same way they're looking for a football club. They're looking for athletes to, in the end, communicate using the channel. They are a media channel now. No, there's not only a social media. If you take any Cristiano Ronaldo or any Messi or any athlete, in the end is a media channel. I wish I had this when I was climbing, because it's the way to communicate to the people that are following you through a brand. So basically, majority of the brands now are looking into this, because it's the approach to the digital advertising. This is already happening many years ago with the digital advertising. 60-70% of the brands, if not more, some of the cases, the allocation of the budget is already digital, but sponsorship is still very analog. That is why in the last, even before COVID, it started to change. COVID did the booster, I would say, on this process.
So nowadays, how much do clubs or rights holders don't know about what they have? I mean, how much money they're leaving on the table? I mean,
that's a good,
I mean, they already monetize some things. Players as Ronaldo or others are famous for, and they post something on Instagram. This is sort of how much they charge. It's sort of a lot of money. So they monetize that, but there's a lot that they don't do. And do you have already
yes, we have a good number. I can give you some number on this. That is, we have clients now in 15 countries on 8 different sports. So from football to hockey. As an average of the whole clients we have, probably 99% of them misuse the digital assets. They're not even using 5 to 6% on average of what they already have. They're doing basically some small activations. Even the big clubs are not using this as an average. So the potential from this 3, 4, 5% to activate into 20, 25% as the benchmark, as you can see, there's a lot of money on the table left by everyone. Nobody's using this. The reason is probably, first, there was no tool like Horizm to help them, but mainly because the flow of the income from organizations were different. Business model was you have the match day disappear. Since the last 15 months, zero, no match day, no nothing. So that's the first wake up call. The second is digital requires organization change, a full mindset of the organization. Not only a solution. It's not only Horizm that will make magic. Horizm needed that from top down or bottom up, the whole organization to be understanding that this is where the brands are looking for to put their budget, and this is where they need to communicate with the fans. With this shift, Horizm is the engine, and we can help the organization. But it's more than only a solution; it's the whole mindset. Few organizations already did this and it started a few years ago. Other organizations are struggling and need to catch up right now on this. We are seeing this movement.
Great. Let me ask you something else on that, because you're you're young, providing that service. You started recently, so I don't know how much data you already have. But do you have an idea of how much? What would be a return on investment for a club that's I'm leaving all that money on the table. I go and work with Horizm, and you already have some sort of proof of concepts of you started to monetize some things. So if you're already
just a number, for sure.
But if you already have numbers like that, I suppose that's very good marketing.
Yeah, I give you an example. Any tier 1 football club in Europe now, without saying any names, probably have, according to the figures, on an average between 10 to 15 million, let's say euros or dollars on the table right now per season that is not being monetized. So if you look at this in a 4-year cycle, that's a lot of money that is just left there. That is not being used either to activate the current sponsor, so to deliver value to the brand that's already, paying you as a partner, or to bring additional revenue. That is the numbers. But tier 2, tier 3 properties on the same level. The difference is the size, of course, the amount. But level of activation on digital is really, really limited today, unfortunately.
Right. There's already here one question from Nuno Costa. So he says that he already saw very high-profile rights holders at the Horizm's roster, but no athletes yet. Is that something that you're still sort of working on, or are you working already with some in a test phase that you're not announcing?
That's a good question. The athletes, they have a different behavior because normally they have either the agents or the agency that manage their career. So there's, let's say, kind of a gatekeeper here. The second point is majority of the top 10 athletes, they already make enough money that they don't even look too much in the digital. They do the activations. When you take Neymar, for example, is public. This just to talk to them is $3 to $4 million as a campaign. But if you go to a mid-size athletes, or as we call the middle class of the athletes, which is the majority, that is where we are tracking, and that's where we are targeting. We already have a few athletes as a clients that still remain anonymous, but it's football players on the Premier League. They're already starting to not only monetize, but to understand which kind of content they need to do better, which kind of brand can approach my profile using data, and they're already going into this direction. So yes, we are not working with Cristiano precisely. We're working with the agency of Cristiano, not yet with Cristiano, as a test base for athletes. That is, in the end, athletes and influencers are kind of the same now. Properties that you can communicate, and there's no barrier here.
And if we talk about personalities or maybe smaller clubs, federations, what is the minimum, let's say, number of followers in some social media channels that you think it would make sense to already try that approach with a company like Horizm?
Yeah, every entity or unity or person that have already 50,000 followers on Instagram or social media up is already possible. Even smaller we can, but the best way for them to understand it, and from 50,000 followers up, we are already putting the machine on, because they already enough content, not only followers, but they have enough content so we can track precisely what they're doing. So it applies to tier 4 organizations as well.
No, that's great. So for us, just another 49,000 followers on YouTube, or 47,000 on LinkedIn. So let's help us get there.
Yes.
Just another 48,000, and we'll sign up with Horizm too. So if you guys help us out with a like, that will be great. So follow our channel. Let me move to another question here. Now that you kind of explain to us, and living in the digital world that we are, this all that you described sounds like a no-brainer. It's quite obvious, but it wasn't when you created it. So how that idea of creating Horizm came about?
Yeah, that's a great point. On that bridge from my career from Hitachi I quit Hitachi and joined FC Barcelona as a consultant to sell digital sponsorship. And I confess that was a huge disaster. And it was a big failure. One of the reasons was, of course, 8 years ago. The organization was not ready, and there was no pricing tool. We fail every time we sit down with a CEO of a big brand. They like, what is this price come from? What is the logical behind that? So in the end, we ended up selling a lot of sponsorship, but non-digital. that was the reason that he started the machine. After that failure, I go back to technology, and then in Switzerland with the Volleyball Federation as a consultant, we were hired to value the digital assets, and came again. I said, that problem, and Jose David, which is the co-founder of Horizm, we were working together. We said the same problem in FC Barcelona, nothing changing in the industry. It's time to do something on that. So we talked to a few right holders, and the problem in reality was very big, existing. So we decided to create a valuation IP only. That was the beginning, just to value things. And from that, I went to Real Madrid basically in a very casual way to present this and pitch a very MVP. And I was lucky enough to be in a wrong place in the right time, because I met David Hobson, which was, the former global head of sponsorship, American Canadian guy. We went to the meeting room, wrong meeting room, and I pitched him in 3 minutes. Wrong person. I went to talk to another person, and he said, "This is what I was looking for into the organization." Wow. And that wrong mistake became the case. Real Madrid embraced this into their whole organization. So Michael Sutherland now is pushing in the innovation, but the whole cascade down. We went to an event together in Leaders back in 2019 in October. That was when we literally have one client with the MVP product, and that was a boom, because Real Madrid is a big player that say, hey, that's the future, everyone should go in this, I'm leading this as the right holder. And that helped us, I have to confess a lot, that wrong meeting room that I was for 15 minutes with David Hobson created the chaos that now became Horizm, that, two founders, bless you. Now that was, two founders with a coder, we were doing whatever we could. Then we became what we are, still a startup company, but in these 18, 20 months, it's kind of, we have the vision, we have the plan, but we needed to have this circumstance in life that helped us. And Real Madrid helped us, indirectly or directly, it helped us to be the first, company that say, no, the inventory management must be done this way, and then it cascaded down to other clients, of course.
Yeah, that's a great story. Lawrence says that it's beautiful. Very good mistake.
Yes.
And Nuno Costa always thanks you for the transparency.
Brazil.
What was your MVP like?
MVP was a very almost fake product, because we have something running on the back with the evaluation IP.
Let's explain what a MVP is, because people here in sports might think that's a most valuable player, but it's a concept of a minimum viable product, right?
Correct. We had a product running, which is web-based, of course, very simple, that you can show some data from this right holder, from Real Madrid, and it was running a very basic thing, so they can see what we're able to do in a very simple way. And then of course, the organization said that is the future. We want to put this, and we rushed to start coding this and deliver, let's say, the first version of the product. And after that, but the MVP, I have to say, was a very basic, very, very, very MVP.
As it should be. There's another question here from Ruben. So besides analysis, evaluation, digital sales, strategy consultancy for rights holders, is Horizm also able to track sales through the digital assets of rights holders?
Correct. Yeah, we're just building this module now, which in the end is a content management or a sales tool that helps to not only build the content, but say, hey, this is already sold or not sold, or who is already buying this, or how much you already have left. So yes, this is already being done. It's a good question on that.
So you go and you make that wrong pitch at Real Madrid that turns out to be great. You had the MVP, and then you probably get their support. Say, okay, do that. We're going to sign up with you. We want that kind of tool. From that stage on, what was the most challenging thing aspects of creating the company and the business?
I think the business, because of product, Jose David, who is, I would say, the mastermind behind the product, the co-founder, we have really literally very clear, we still have clear the next 2 years roadmap of the product. So that is clear, but the challenge is to execute like any other startup. It's great to have a plan, but in the end is how to put this in practice. But I would say the tough moment was not on this side, but also when came COVID, because we didn't know, I mean, nobody knew what would be the reaction of the industry. And actually, the day before the lockdown, I was in London to have talking to an investor. We need some money to continue producing the product, because initially we put everything we had as like any other startup. So we were in a tough situation. We put a lot of, all our money there. And the day before the COVID, I was in London before the lockdown. I was in a meeting with this investment fund who owns a Premier League club when they canceled the Premier League games and started the COVID. So I actually ended up lost my bag in the train in London. I lost the venture capital investment. So we came down that day, very, depressing moment that we say, well, that is over. It's finished. My adventure lasts for a few months. But then the reality was opposite. We start to have inbound calls from GMs, from, hey, I heard you guys have these from Real Madrid. Can I have a test? And a former president of a football club in France, the other one in Italy, and say, whoa, this is happening.
Well, it made a lot of sense, because basically that's what they had, was digital assets.
Exactly. So they had and say, well, we know that Real Madrid have this, and then came Juventus, and then came the Inter, and then it was a snowball effect that COVID, as I said, wake up everyone on the digital assets, and we became from one client to nearly 85 clients in 15 countries, basically, in this 15 months probably, and 14 months.
So what is harder? Because one aspect as well of building a tech company is that you have to move fast and therefore need to raise money. So what is harder? Develop a high quality product, find customers to buy that, or actually raise investment?
I mean, always raising investment, but I have to say that we are kind of lucky, not because of the investment, it's still hard, but because of the team we have. Those guys, not only the technical side, but the business side, they are the guys running the show in the end. And we were lucky enough, to get people on board of the organization that have the same mindset, understanding the business maturity, that understand and say, we need to change this. So I'm on board. I think that helped and facilitated everything else. Then comes the clients. In the end, we need to still knock doors, of course, and this is our job, it's just the beginning of the journey. But the team is the key for everything. Not even fundraising, not even building products. With a good team, you build a good product. It is accepted by the market, and this is retrofitting everything. I think the key is the team, and we have definitely, I would have to say, one of the best teams, if not the best team. Not only on the technical side, but on the business side, who understand the needs of the right holders. Because we're not building a product because Jose David or I like it. We are asking those guys, what do you need today? And we put the vision for tomorrow. That is the consultancy approach, but in execution, very fast. So yes, the speed is important, money is important, but the team is the most important by far.
Right now, and well, that's great to hear. We're going to talk about hiring a team or putting a team together in the minutes. Want to know, now there's so many sports tech companies sort of appearing. There's a new opportunity for people that wants to work in sports with awesome clients like the one you have. I'm going to ask you about that in a minute. But before, so I don't forget, you also launched a report recently, the digital value of fans, right? So, by the way, for whoever is interested, there's a link in the description of the video if you're watching on YouTube. Otherwise, you can find it at horizm.com. What are the main findings of that report?
Well, that was creation by the team again, by Luis, led by Luis, who managed our strategy in the organization. The goal of this report is to put data behind a concept that sometimes we misunderstand, that the bigger the number of followers they have any organization, the better they are on digital. So we eliminate this, putting the data, showing that not only the size is important, but also the way, the frequency you are posting, the way you post, the content, kind of content you're producing. That, you know, a football club like Tier 1 and Premier League could be the, you know, bigger in terms of inventory, but if you compare this to a smaller property that have very, very high engaged fans, like, I don't know, Atletico de Bilbao, for example, that comes in a very good position, the value per fan is higher. It's the same concept as GDP on economy. If you take GDP, China and US, well, I'm going to say China is, you know, depends on the source, number one, number two in the planet. But if you go GDP per capita, it goes down a lot because it's not distribution fairly. That's the same approach that Luis came with, applying not number of followers, but taking into consideration the engagement, the reach you have. That is not the same, have a whole bunch of followers concentrated in one region, then have small followers, but very engaging in other regions. So that is, so the findings is size is not important. I would say it's relevance, the constancy of posting. So the more content you're generating, the correlation of value per phone is higher. So there's a very positive correlation on that.
Oh, that's great. Do you have that some tips of best practices for clients as well there in the report?
Put content out. Sometimes we are, and I particularly am in this case personally, very curate on content, what we are doing. But in the end, the fan in the other side, so we, you know, on social media, we want to see content. So the more content we have from particularly rights holders, the more opportunity we have to be engaged. If not, people will swipe to another platform and move away from these rights holders. So yes, you need to have curation, but you need to post, the more the better. That is the message. You cannot only post once in the morning and then next week you do not post. It cannot happen at this stage we are living, the society we have with the mobiles and the content consumption we have.
Cool. That's great. There's a couple of more comments here. There's another question. I want to say hello, boa tarde to Otacílio Lima in Barra Bonita, Brazil. Hello, Otacílio. Nice to see you here. And there's a question from Duran. Basically, he says, I think that Ruben was actually asking about merchandising sales converted from the digital properties or the sponsors product sales out of a specific sponsorship. Well, if that wasn't Ruben's question, that is Duran's question.
That's great, Duran. Thank you for that. The first one, we do not track the physical merchandising, but one of the things that is becoming a natural thing now is that the brands want to associate with right holders for an action, not only for media, but they want to click to call action. So basically to sell more products in the end. You know, if you have Coca-Cola, for example, it's not only branding, but I want to sell more bottles in the corner. No? So yes, we are preparing our way to track using the CRM from the right holders and from the brands that we can track. We send 100 links, for example, and that was the conversion rates out of your e-commerce or whatever is. So yes, this is possible. We have some good tests with one right holder on this side that the brand are happy enough to give us this information as well, so we can match. We send 100 clients, for example, and what was the conversion rate. So yes, it will become probably in the near future something that is a very, very good trend. It's a good question from this one.
Is that you mentioned that you're already working on something like that. Is that the next step for the company? If not, what is, now that you're raising more money? I think you're in a new round of funding. You know, with the money in the bank, where do you plan to go?
They continue to build the first thing, a best-in-class team. Always, we need more people. This is always important with this mindset. In terms of business, is to help the right holders monetize. So we're not only packing everything they have, we're going to the next stage as well, and get dirty and help them to monetize this. So bringing sponsors, that is the next stage that is happening. And on tech, on the product side, I mean, there's a long roadmap with that predictive AI and a lot of techy things. But integrating with CRMs is the more demand we have with the brands. This is something that we already have for this. But the funding, like all startups, we always raising money. That's our life, basically. It's continually to keep growing because of the speed. The money is basically growth money, which is a good news for investors, basically.
Oh, that's great. I want to touch on that aspect that we talked about just a few minutes ago, and I want to know your opinion if you think that the landscape of the sports job market is changing as fast as this the tech market, right? Because we see every day new sports tech plays, right? From, of course, esports, in essence, is sports tech play, and to companies providing solutions for sports like Horizm and many others. So what are the main opportunities for non-tech people, right? So non-developers, people in these organizations? Is it sales, marketing? How important is a niche, rich network in sports for them to go in and work with you? Tell us, I mean, what you're looking for in terms of talent sort of right now. You also participated in Horizm participated in the job fair that we did last week. But I want to learn from you in a broader sense. What do you think? What are the opportunities in tech, sports tech companies as a whole?
Yeah, I went so in terms of general, in terms of market, the trend is all sports organizations are becoming either a media company or the real consumer company. So if you look at the job posts, basically, they're coming. If you look in US, majority as a trend, all right holders are looking for, of course, data people, the typical concept to analyze what we are delivering. So they need to transform that data into knowledge. That's very important. So data, not only data scientists, but business intelligence people. But majority of right holders now, because of the change of the scenario, are becoming, they need salespeople that understand how to sell products. It's not only, sign a deal or sponsorship once in a year and then manage. This scenario changes. So that's the first thing. It's very dynamic. Second point is digital understanding. You don't need to be super freaky on digital, but understanding what is digital marketing is, because that's the talk now. 20 years ago, you're going to talk to any brand on sponsorship. It's completely analogical. No? Now, sponsorship is talk about CPM, impressions, CPX, whatever we call this. No? So this understanding is important, whatever side of the you are. No? Of course, tech companies like ours, with our sport tech, is a hybrid. We need still the coders, team, but we need let's say the business side of the team, but need to be aware on the digital for sure. That is always the challenge. People that are coming from selling something or other industries, understanding that these need to be going into digital. No? So profiles must be included digital all the time. If not, at least understanding how to sell things, because only the profile of more government bodies, etc. This is it's going less now, as you can see in the job post as well. People in the organizations, in ours, and need to keep selling. The dynamic of the market changed a lot. Everything is super fast, and digital is the component that everyone, not only us, but every organization must have now. No, but it's changing. That's a good thing. The good news is that it's opening again with a different profile.
Thank you for explaining that to me. And I was thinking while you were talking about that, in the more traditional sports organizations, I think more and more as well, they are also looking for people that are coming from other areas, right? Not sport, more traditional business. They want to bring that professionalism in. But then you have, sports tech companies that, of course, in terms of business and sales, might be looking more or less for the same thing. But is there a place for people with the traditional experience in sports? Is that value for people that's has been working in sport for maybe 20 years or so to migrate? And is there a specific role that you require a good network in sport? If so, what is it? What is it?
No, network is, of course, is one of great assets as usual, in any kind of business. But in the end, is the ability to change. It doesn't matter. Of course, organizations are looking for people coming from other industries. True. If you look to FIFA, for example, they're bringing people from different industries, nothing to do with football at all. And if you look, the current CEO of FC Barcelona is coming from real estate, zero understanding of our industry, or not coming from that, but understand about business. That's the concept, So that is the challenge, And now is, and from the people who are in sports, to continue in sports, digital. There's no curve out of this. No, the events will continue to be important, but understanding the digital is the key now.
Right. So last week, of course, I mentioned Horizm was at our job fair. Did you actually go? Because you were there last year, but this year you had your team members there.
Yeah, we have the team, and I went for 5 minutes, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. I hope that will bring. I hope that will bring good results. You need to let me know.
No, for sure. We have fantastic candidates for the roles we are looking for in the midterm now, but already talking to a few of them. The good thing is that there's a lot of people that literally we are connected. We're lucky enough to connect with a great mindset, and some of them with great background on different industry. Our aim as well is not only sport. It doesn't need to have, for some roles, of course, you need to have the sport background, but in others, we need people who want to change things. And in the end, if they were in another kind of industry, but add values to us, that's perfect.
Cool. We're getting to the end here of our time. I think I have one last one that I want to ask you, but there are a couple of more questions that came here. I'll try to get to all of them. But what about NFTs? So the big talk about brands or sports organizations creating content digitally are NFTs, and everybody's talking about NBA stop shots and all that. Mm-hmm. Is that a category of assets that you're going to track as well and to work with? If so, what's the plan to work with that? And maybe if you want to talk a little bit more about it, I don't know, what's your view on it? Many, talk about it as a collectible item and don't know how predictable that can be. But there's so many in it, all the sort of smart contracts and everything that you can do with, Ethereum and all that. But you're the experts. Maybe give us a little sense of NFT as a whole, and if Horizm has a plan to work with that.
Yeah, we're starting to look on this, but as any other trend, sometimes we need to wait the trend to become a little bit more mainstream, because so far we're seeing some things, of course, of huge hits, like you're selling some properties for millions of dollars. This is not easy accessible to majority of people, but it's true that it is a trend. It can create a lot of new products, mainly collectibles as well. That's something that is attract people, especially in some countries. So as soon as it becomes a more mainstream and part of the assets from any right holder, we're going to be tracking. In the end, if it's digital assets, we're going to track. So that's the answer. We're waiting and keep close attention on this. Regarding the blockchain or any other technology, for us, of course, everything that becomes a real trend is get parts on our roadmap. That is the thing. We don't have any opinion sometimes on this, because technology fluctuates a lot. There's a lot of boom of coins or bitcoins or whatever, then the other day disappear. It's up and down. We need this to get stable. That's why the industry is getting into that, but in a more caution way, because in the end, everything that is new, up and down, is like a roller coaster, But it's true that the tech will bring, as you mentioned, not only smart contracts, with blockchain, basically, it can help so many ways to create digital assets that for us is always have an eye here to track. That's part of our solution as well.
No, that's great. Just going to some final questions here from the audience. Let me just say hi to a very special person here, José Luis in Santos, Brazil. Hello, José. There's also Alexander Ndace from Nigeria. Here, there's another. No, thank you for participating this much. That's great that you're contributing with the conversation. And here's an important, I think, question that you might want to elaborate.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about, that they need to post it, that they have to, continue, be consistent, right? But he asks about being authentic.
Yeah.
But so while remaining,
that's a great question. I think if you look on average, a football club in Europe, Tier 1, makes 45,000 posts per season. That's a lot of posts. So you still have room to remain authentic on the content you're producing, but we need to take in consideration that to produce content is very costly for some of those organizations. Not all organizations are like, have a media house to produce content, so they need to be authentic and creative. I agree with you on this. But in the end, the more content you are putting out, of course, you cannot put in only trash there because people will wipe out and say this is not correct. But the more content you produce, a football or a sport organization is a content factory. They can produce for one match, not only the match itself, but behind the scenes. We look an example now from Formula One, going back behind on this Netflix. Everything is related, not about the race, is about the drama behind that. So everything is the drama on this. So sport organizations can create content based on that. We never see in Europe mainly. In US you already have this, but you don't have the locker room when they lose or win a match. These kind of things are still content that you can produce with a mobile phone, literally, that is interest for the fan. And the thing we need to, let's say, destroy the barrier we have that, we cannot go to this place, we cannot do this with the players. As soon as they do this, like in the US, they're already doing, you're creating more content that is still relevant to the fan. And with a tool like Horizm, and just to close this, Nuno, you can measure and see what is working, and you can A/B test, determine types of content. If you're doing some stuff that is not working, you take it out. You can geo A/B test the content that is really relevant. We all do this in tech companies before, like a campaign. You can test, see if it works. The copy is not working, you change. So that's the ability of the digital. So that's a good question.
And that's crucial, right? What's not measured is not improved, right?
Not improved. Yeah, correct.
So just going here to the end, there's another one from Duran. Thanks. I think digital sponsorship would be a great platform to integrate performance advertising compared to the brand advertising. Since I imagine this is Facebook and Ing. Is that
Instagram, maybe?
Instagram, maybe? Also are exploring EC tools. Do you know what EC tools are?
Yeah, I'm thinking too, but
we don't know. But
probably e-commerce on that. Yeah, but
all right.
But
Thanks
it's true.
for the comments. I was gonna leave Lawrence here to the end. So Kat O'Brien just sent a message here. Actually, it's a question. So which sports leagues stand out as particularly advanced in their digital commitment? Do any stand out for being particularly behind?
Yeah, it's a good question.
You might not mention names for the behind ones.
Yeah, but definitely, Premier League is, no, I cannot say any names, but in terms of leagues, Premier League in Europe, let's say, it's a step further than any other leagues in terms of building digital in general, all in digital sponsorship. The other ones leave behind is because the league itself still haven't done the job of going global, or doesn't have the digital mindset, is still selling only the TV rights. So they need to go into that point. The Premier League is a perfect example of, collectively doing a good job in terms of digital sponsorship, inventory creation. And that's why the football clubs there are, the biggest valuations, the big inventory size, and the league most watched, even though we have in Spain or Italy big football clubs. So it's a journey in Europe they're already taking. In US, of course, they're ahead probably 1 or 2 years comparing to football.
Great. So here there's another one from Lawrence that I was saving to the end. So it's not a question, it's more like a statement. So there's a saying that you don't give what you don't have. I'm changing career path from public service into sport world. I've been into sports and have a passion for when I can remember. So I think I can only wish you very good luck.
Good luck on that.
Lawrence, I was actually going to leave to this. He just sent in another question. And this is, I think, going to be the last one. My plan is to work after the school and gain more experience before I start my sports company. Is it possible to get a job immediately after my master's in sports? He's currently got accepted to ESBS Spain.
Yeah.
Maybe I can
It's possible. Definitely. It's always possible. In the end, I was in the wrong meeting room when we created Horizm. So your circumstance is even better because you already have the master, already have accepted in this. So it's possible. I know some people, even here in Spain, that are just finishing the master and getting into agencies, getting traction on this, learning. So it's possible. It's an industry that is very dynamic now, and especially sport tech companies like Horizm and others are running other space, are looking for people who want, change the things, because in the industry, that is an industry that needs the change. It's happening now. So it's not only the knowledge, but need to have the grit, because it's very important, this part.
Exactly, Pedro. And if I can, because I do, of course, work with several programs here at iWorkinSport.
Yeah.
And then people ask me about, is everyone who does this master, are they super qualified or what? They're not, right? There are some people that are super excellent. There are some that may not be as talented for a particular position. But I think that the point is that they all have the grit, maybe that you mentioned, right? It's people that decided to invest maybe a year of their life and put, money down and actually believe in education, in preparing themselves. So it's a nice step. So good luck to you, Lawrence. SBS is a nice school. I want to say hi to Caleb and to the people there. They're good friends of ours too. And I think it's a nice way to leave the conversation today. There's just a clap from Marcelo, good friend. Thanks for the support, Marcelo. And Pedro, I want to thank you so much for participating here. Thank everyone that was watching us.
That's great.
Contributed with comments. I always say that many of normally the best questions come from them, not from me. So it's great that they participate. And thank you so much, Pedro, and everybody that was watching at home. And Marcelo is recommending the FIFA Master.
It's great.
where we studied. And Yash thought it was a very insightful too. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity as well.
Gonna end now, and we'll be seeing you hopefully next week. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.